Do you know what biases in the text are? Is it important to determine biases made by authors? Now, in this lesson, you will learn how to determine biases made by authors. I am Teacher Vicky, and welcome to another episode of Innovative Learning. Now, in this lesson, you will be able to determine what biases is all about. You will be able to identify biases made by the author and determine biases in the given text. Are you ready? Let's go! Now, let us examine biases made by the author. This is the third quarter, week 1 and 2 learning module. Let us have the learning task number 1. This is about checking your background knowledge. Identify the following propaganda techniques. Choose your answer from the given option. We have bandwagon, loaded words, name calling, testimonial, transfer, and propaganda. Let's have number 1. It urges you to do something because everybody else is doing it. What do you think is the answer? Very good, bandwagon. Let's have the second one. It uses the testimony of a famous person to get you to do something. Very good, the clue is there. The answer is testimonial. Let's have the third one. It uses positive images so that it will transfer your positive feelings towards one thing or another. That's right. The answer is transfer. Number 4. It uses derogatory term to criticize a person or product. Derogatory means negative. What do you think is the answer? Very good. The answer is name calling. Let's have the last one. It uses words that appeal to the emotion rather than common sense. Words. You got it right. The answer is loaded words. I hope you got all the correct answer here. Let us have the learning task 2. All you need to do is just read the following paragraphs and then try to determine whether there is bias using the given information. Questions and suggestions below. I will read the paragraph. Reading for pleasure is a waste of time. People who spend hours reading don't get to live in the real world. They don't really learn anything that is useful about how to deal with everyday people and problems. Plus, teacher always make us read things that are boring. Okay, so let me ask you some questions. Can you determine the facts in the article? Okay, there are no facts in the article. So this article cannot be validated. So now, what about the opinions of the author? That's correct. This entire paragraph is just an opinion. Reading for pleasure is a waste of time. People who spend hours reading don't get to live in the real world. They don't really learn anything. And of course, teachers always make them read things that are boring. Now, looking at the opinion, that is, what do you think is the prevailing tone? Is it positive or negative? That's correct, it's negative. The author is against the reading for pleasure. Do you think the writer intentionally uses bias to persuade or invite the readers? Okay, it might be intentional. Maybe the author wants you to believe that reading for pleasure is just a waste of time. What about you, students? Do you find reading for pleasure is just a waste of time? Now the question is, how are we going to identify biases in a text? Actually, an important part of evaluating an author's ethos is identifying that author's bias. When we say ethos, it's a Greek word meaning character of the author. Bias is any opinion that influences a person's thought, feelings, and actions. An author's bias is any opinion or prejudice that affects that author's writing and prevents the author from being completely neutral about the topic or issue that he is writing. How to determine what an author's bias is? When looking at the author's use of evidence, ask yourself, does the author present more positive evidence for one side of an issue than the other one? Or does the author present more negative evidence? These are both clues that the author may be biased for or against a particular issue. When just looking at the author's diction, ask yourself, when you say diction, this is the use of words. Does the author use words with more negative connotation when referring to one side of an issue or particular people? Does the author use words with more positive connotation when referring to one side of an issue or particular people? So when you say connotation, this is your idea or feeling that a word invokes in addition to its literal or primary meaning. Okay, it's your own meaning that you refer to a certain thing or word. The author may directly state some of his or her biases by telling the reader his or her own opinion on a certain topics, or by just admitting that he or she has a conflict or interest or maybe preference about it. But when the author does not acknowledge his or her own bias, a skilled reader can infer what an author's bias may be by looking at the author's diction and use of evidence. Your job as a reader, in order for you to determine biases in text or in any forms of materials, is that you have to recognize biases. You also have to think critically and of course determine its effects to you as a reader. These are the steps in recognizing biases from a text. The first one is look for loaded words and phrases. So when I say loaded words, these are the words that elicit to our emotion. It could be positive or negative. The second one is watch out for stereotypes. So when I say stereotypes, these are just the mistaken ideas or belief many people have about a certain thing or a group. The third one is notice unclear language of generalization. And then the fourth one, be on the lookout for one-sided arguments. So the author must discuss both sides. And then the last, does the author present facts and opinions? So it's okay to present opinions as long as these opinions are supported by an evidence. Okay, so it's not just opinions, but of course it must be supported by your evidence. Let us read this example. Most parents tell their children that engaging in romantic relationships can ruin their studies. As for me, based on my experience, being in a relationship provides inspiration to graduate. The feeling of excitement, love, and motivation make me believe that it's okay to be in a relationship while studying. Now, these are questions to determine whether there is bias in this text. The first one, what does the author use in his or her text? Facts or opinion? Very good. These are all opinions. because the author did not provide studies or any other valid evidence to back his or her opinions. Let's have the second one. The author used these words and phrases like, as for me, based on my experience, and make me believe. These words are considered loaded words that elicit someone's emotion. Next, let's have the third one. What is the topic all about? That's right. The topic is all about engaging in romantic relationship. And last question, what is the author's bias on the topic? That's correct. The author is for romantic relationship. What about you? Are you for or against romantic relationship while studying? I hope you are against romantic relationship while studying because you just have to focus on studying. Okay, for you to achieve academic achievement or awards, maybe you can just focus on studies alone before getting into any other romantic relationships. Let us have the learning task number 3. All you need to do is just read the questions or statement and choose the correct answer from the option. The first one, my son's girlfriend is very rude. She calls so late at night, sometimes as late as 9 o'clock at night. Last week, she called me Sarah instead of Mrs. Olson. I quickly corrected her. So disrespectful. Today, she came over for lunch and brought cookies without even asking if it was okay. What if I had already made cookies? The author is biased against blank. A. Rude children. B. Her son's girlfriend. C. Her son. And D. Dating. Very good. The correct answer is her son's girlfriend. Letter B. Okay, because the negative opinions was focused on her son's girlfriend. Like, the girlfriend of his son is very rude. She calls late at night. And she is disrespectful according to the writer or the author. Okay, the author doesn't like her son's girlfriend. Number 2. Which of the underlined words help show the author's bias? My son's girlfriend is very rude. She calls so late at night, sometimes as late as 9 at night. Last week, she called me Sarah instead of Mrs. Olson. I quickly corrected her. Letter A. Girlfriend. B. Weak. C. Rude. And D. Cold. Very good. The answer is rude. Letter C. Let us have the third one. An author writing about Mustang convertibles uses words such as performance, speed, fuel efficiency, wind, and luxury. Now the question is, what can you infer about the author's bias? A. He dislikes a sports car. Letter B. He thinks Mustangs are for old people. Letter C. He likes Mustang convertibles. And letter D. He thinks Mustangs are dangerous. That is correct. The answer is letter C. He likes Mustang's convertible because performance, speed, fuel efficiency, wind, luxury are all positive words. Therefore, we can infer that the author likes Mustang convertibles. Let's have the fourth one. What does it mean to show bias? A, to be angry, to refuse to take a side, letter C, to favor one side of another or over another, or letter D, to show knowledge. That is correct. To favor one side over another. One side or one-sided argument. Number 5. True or false? Everybody is biased or has bias. Very good. The correct answer is true. Everyone has bias, but it doesn't make us a bad person. It's just that we have our own opinion, but then again, always remember that we have to back our opinion with relevant information or evidence. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something in this lesson. Have a great day. Bye!